Springbok Showdown sees Green take on Gold, or take out Gold. 25 points to 9. Pretty comfortable in the end. I've just watched it this morning, much after the fact, but better late than never. I'll go over some of the key events of the game, my thoughts on it, and you guys can let me know your thoughts as well. I mean, suffice to say, this one wasn't an instant classic, but I admit finishing this game, seeing the players all shake hands and smile and whatnot with a big stupid grin on my face at the end, just because, what can I say, man? It's still nice to see the Springboks guys back in action, a team wearing the Springbok green jersey. Fittingly, I guess, kind of one, because that team's generally a pretty hard one to beat. But, yeah, pretty happy that I saw the game. Even if it wasn't, like, I think Jacques Ninaba even said, like, it wasn't a spectacle when they interviewed him, like, on about the hour mark. But, I mean, it's the second game for these guys, so there were some errors. I guess you could see a bit of a shift in mentality from the Superfan Saturday last week, where it was more like free-flowing exhibition and a lot more changes. This one was more like, we don't want to lose this game, which is refreshing as well, because, you need to see these guys essentially playing for rugby championship spots, assuming that's all going to go ahead. But anyway, the game itself, it starts off, my son's sitting next to me, and he looks at the Gold team and says, "You don't have that shirt, Dad." I'm like, "I know, one of these days, son, but I've got the other one. I got the green one." And because of that, he was cheering on the green team, and he certainly got his way. Early on, it was looking dangerous for Gold, actually. I thought Gold had the better start. Willemse put a little grubber kick through for Speckman, and he was dragged into touch, so it was threatening early. Schickling got a line-out steal on Gold's throw as well. I thought the line-outs were operating not at optimal kind of conditions, and that's, again, to be expected for two teams that have only got together relatively recently. Both sides kind of playing for a bit of territory early. Nohamba put a couple of nice box kicks through. Yankees was looking pretty assured. This is Elton. I thought Elton had a pretty good game, actually. He looked pretty comfortable. Intobeni probably shouldn't be a scrum half. At one point, he had to take the ball from the base of the scrum. I think he threw it to Kitsoff, who did an amazing job to pick it up off his ankles. That was certainly not lacking a bit of skill. And 8 minutes was the first chance for points. Motorbike. Willemse took a shot at goal, and he pushed it wide. And, I mean, that guy didn't have his best game. Again, it's not too fair to judge him based on, one game when it's your second game back. But, I mean, the dude needs to work on his goal kicking, that is for sure. Not all his kicks were easy. Some of them were easier than others. But, that's one thing you would hope. It's an individual skill that you can keep working on during the lockdowns. And, he probably could benefit from a goal kicking coach. I'm just thinking, did you remember that year the Waratahs won Super Rugby? Bernard Foley, whose goal kicking is kind of inconsistent. He had Andrew Mertens as a goal kicking coach, and he improved markedly. And after he stopped working with him, his goal kicking kind of went back down. So I hope Willemse, because he's a talented guy, I hope he can improve that aspect of his game, because otherwise he may not get the trust from his team that he needs. 11 minutes, Rikus Pretorius attempted intercept, just a knock on. Other times you could probably see that one given as a penalty, but no, just a knock on, so that was fine. 14 minutes, Green got a scrum penalty, and that was kind of ominous, because they would go on to dominate much of the scrum early. Now, the scrum kind of went back and forward, to be fair. You could see Kitsoff getting pretty frustrated at conceding scrum penalties and trying to take matters into his own hands. Eventually he did, and managed to win some himself. But that scrum penalty meant 3-0. Elton didn't make any mistakes with his first shot at goal. 20 minutes, Green get another advantage from the scrum. It comes to a penalty, and it's 6-0. At that point, the set-piece dominance is starting to look pretty ominous, as I said, for Green. Green's kick and chase, I thought, was causing all kind of problems for Gold as well. They were really putting a lot of pressure on, and you were seeing kind of unforced errors from the Gold guys, or maybe at least kind of semi-forced errors with the pressure that's being applied. Again, some errors, handling errors were fairly high in this game. I mean, the conditions seemed all right, but again, that's just the pressure and the fact that their second game back, and probably a lot of these guys aren't used to playing the Springboks. You can see a few guys taking a look up before the ball was in their hands and like, goodness gracious, who's about to smack me into the dirt? They're probably just not used to playing the Springboks, man. That was probably part of it. A few guys got flattened, which was fun to see as well. I felt sorry for Herschel Yankees. Franz Stain ran over him at one point. That was pretty brutal. Anyway, it's a few kilos difference between those guys. 28 minutes, Elton Yankees missed the penalty, actually. It was short. It was a hell of a long penalty. Probably at altitude he gets it, but it didn't quite go over. It looked good from the boot, but it was just short on 28 minutes. 31 minutes, Gold got their scrum penalty. They went for touch and lost the line out, which was, again, another error. I would say overall Gold had the majority of the unforced errors, where they just let themselves down. 33 minutes, though, Gold did kick a penalty to make it 6-3. Their scrum was really coming good, but Willemse's boot was still not. He was 1 from 3 penalties at that point, and then they took another one like right before halftime. It was like a 44-meter kick, and it didn't go over. So I think Willemse finished the first half 1 from 4, and it was 6-3. So it could have been a Gold advantage if Willemse's kicking boots had been a bit better. But yeah, not to be. Second half, Gold get an early penalty. It's a tough kick, so this time Willemse goes for touch, which is maybe something they spoke about at halftime. I'm not sure. But then not long later, there's a penalty try given. And it's our man Willemse. Like, to be fair, I wrote a few notes saying Willemse was having a bit of a shocker early because he missed the penalties. He was knocking the ball on. He missed touch from a penalty. He did put a big tackle on Franz Stain and got blood all down himself because he seemed to get a bit of a accidental elbow. But then he gets yellow carded and gives away a penalty try. It was that man Pinkler who he held back. Skossan, Pinkler, and Willemse were all kind of running for a kick through. And Skossan had a bit of contact with Pinkler, but nothing. It was pretty innocuous. Just two guys competing for the ball, but Willemse was kind of holding Pinkler's arm. Pinkler, turned around to the ref and, put his arms out and fell to the ground. Probably rightly so, because he was definitely being held back. And if he tries to run through it, maybe he just gets beaten to the ball and nothing comes of it. But I don't know. It was interesting because there was no big screen for the ref to have a look at the footage, so he was totally reliant on the TMO, which I actually didn't mind. It means the TMO's got to make a decision. But anyway, they decided that holding Pinkler back stopped a try, and it would have probably been scored. So Willemse gets yellow carded, and it's a penalty try for Green. So it's 13-6, yellow card. Kurren Bosch comes on. This is when the substitutes really start to be rushed on. Interestingly, though, that yellow card period was mostly Gold. Like, they seemed to really lift. I don't know if it was Kurren Bosch with his big old boot, because he was certainly putting some effort into those kicks. But, they actually ended up getting a penalty on 46. It was like 57 meters, according to Supersport's little graphic. And it didn't go too far away, but Bosch missed that one as well with a bit of angle. But that was good. It took about probably 90 seconds out of the yellow card for Gold as well. And then he did get another one, Bosch, from about 40 meters this time, and he kicked it. So during the yellow card, Gold actually won it 3-0. So it's 13-6 when that yellow card comes to a conclusion. And Malcolm Yar, from the resulting kickoff, gets his leg kind of... he's competing for a ball, going for a tackle, and he gets his leg kind of caught under himself. His leg buckles. It looks pretty nasty. That's the only seemingly serious injury of the game, which is fortunate, because that's the problem with these games at times, I guess, as entertaining as they are. You do risk some injuries. He went off on a stretcher, but he was sitting up at least, not lying down, so we'll wish him the best. 56 minutes. Kolisi gets the first try, not a penalty try. And... like I mentioned earlier, this game was pretty tight compared to Superfan Saturday. The team's not wanting to lose. But that being said, Green maybe had a bit of that Erasmus magic. I don't know, because they certainly tried a few nifty little moves at set piece time, and a couple of them paid off. The first one's Khaleesi's one. It's a short line out move, and they set a maul to rumble like straight away. The gold guys couldn't set, and as they were looking to go into touch, Khaleesi just peels off the back and goes over for a try. So it's good awareness from him to know to peel away, and Herschel Yankees was never going to stop him. So yeah, it was a big try, that one. They missed the conversion, so it's 18-6. Gold have a chance to strike back on the hour mark. They get a 5-meter line out, and it's not straight. Frustrating, man. Frustrating. Like, Gold weren't without their chances. You look at that scoreline, it could have been a hell of a lot closer. 65 minutes, we see something which you hardly ever see. Ambrose Papier gets pinged for feeding the ball straight under the hooker's feet. You almost never see that. I think in the European game last week, we saw Nigel Owens ping a scrum half for not using it when he'd called use it. You never see that. Just likewise, you never see this, but it actually happened, so that was a bit rare. 67 minutes, Gold goes 7 phases and Green's 22, and there's not many times we saw the teams go through that many phases, to be honest. I'm not sure what the top phase count would have been, but that would have been one of the closest ones. It was intense. They'd brought all their subs on. You could see them ramping it up, and then they knocked it on. It was brutal. 68 minutes, they decided to take a penalty because, yeah, scoring a try seemed unlikely, but it was 18-9. And then, speaking of tries, Siano Augustus gets one. And it's another one of those kind of sneaky little set piece moves. It's like a 2-man line out. Then they put an up and under. And then I think it was Schickling's head that it bounced off as he was competing for it in the air. And then Augustus's knee. But anyway, after a bit of a shambles in defence and people scrambling to get the ball, Augustus is the first guy to get it. And he goes over for a try. And you could see the joy on the green team's faces that move actually paid off. I don't think it was quite according to plan, but the setup part was a bit different. And yeah, the team was very chuffed. It was that man, Volata, who kicked the conversion, and he was grinning like the Cheshire Cat, that man. He just seemed so happy. That was honestly part of the joy of watching this game, is seeing the smiles on these guys' faces, like especially at the end, but also during the game. Like Elton Yankees was smiling. These guys are just so happy to be playing rugby. It was joyous to see. 78 minutes, Lucanio Arm gets a line break, one of the biggest breaks of the game. But the Gold guys, after a couple of passes, they can't get the ball into somebody free, so they get held up over the line. And yeah, the game's pretty much over from there. So, man, Gold weren't without their chances, as I mentioned. But overall, Green probably pretty deserved winners, as I mentioned. Elton Yankees, not everybody's favourite, but he looked like maybe that's one example of a bit of experience paying off compared to someone like Damien Willemse, whose game was erratic a bit at times. Kua Bosch looked pretty assured when he came on. Some of those props were pretty impressive. Bongi Mbonambi played a lot of minutes. Interpeni didn't quite play as many on the other side. Kitsoff and Oxenshare played a lot of minutes as well. Good battle at scrum time was fun to see. The lineouts, as I said, kind of weren't quite there. It was interesting to see some of these guys try to step up in light of so many South African locks abroad being injured at the moment. So, yeah, man. Nohamba's pass is still absolute lightning compared to everybody else. I think he's got such a quick pass. It's fun, man. What can I say? I've had a good morning watching the game with my son. He lasted most of the game. Eventually, he went to play outside with his sister. But yeah, pretty good. No fake crowd noise. You didn't need it, man. You don't need the fake crowd noise. This game worked without it. It was good. Also, I wrote down another good moment at halftime. You saw like Kitsoff just run over to Mbonambi, like put his arm around him. Like, that's just infectious. You can't watch that and not just also smile. I don't know what it is. Anyway, I mentioned Franstein running over Herschel Yankees. Franstein's a big unit, so anyway. Yeah, that was Green and Gold. Good times. We've got Super Rugby Unlocked coming up. We got All Blacks Australia Bledisloe Cup coming up. There's the European Champions Cup final, even though a bunch of the European teams seem to have COVID cases at the moment, which is a bit disconcerting. Hopefully, in South Africa, they can keep their bubbles pretty well tight so that nothing like that happens. But yeah, certainly a fun way to spend my Sunday morning, even if the handling errors were a bit high and the lineouts weren't as sharp as they could have been. It was still fun for me anyway. You guys let me know what you thought. Kind of key moments, big plays, guys that impressed you, guys that didn't. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.